Welcome back to Pure Michigan Sports. It's episode 19, and this is your home for everything sports in the state of Michigan. Christian Peck-Dimit, Alex Deimel, and we are off to a great start this week. Michigan, I think, I have the Michigan?
It depends on how you look at things. If
All
we're
right.
looking at a purely Detroit sports perspective,
That's
sure.
exactly what I'm doing.
If you want to talk gambling, we are not off to a very good start. We'll get into that more later, but I wanted to make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's there. But yes, you're very much right. Like, very great on Detroit sports run, and I'd rather have that. Like, I would give any gambling losses to have winning teams. That's just the pain of being a Michigan sports fan.
That's true. I'm with you there, but no, you're right. When we keep it just Michigan sports focused, the Tigers are the hottest team in baseball right now. The Lions didn't get a pretty win, but a win is just that, a win. The Wings made some great offseason moves. Michigan football somehow, some way defied everything that we thought on this podcast, certainly, and pulled out a big win. So all of Michigan sports are riding high right now, unless maybe you're a Spartan fan. But even there, I think you're happy with a little bit of what you got. Overall, though, big wins this weekend. And I think we're going to start at what I think is the biggest of them all. The team on the chest of my sweatshirt right now.
Was it worth that loss? That's what I got to ask.
That's actually a good question. The Texas loss?
No, you had USC spread.
Oh, absolutely, it's worth the loss. Didn't you just say that, man? You'll take a betting loss, and that's, I think, why I bet against my teams so rarely, even if I feel like I think they're going to lose. You're right. I had them plus or minus 5.5. USC was my pick, one of my picks of the week last week. That, of course, did not go through, did not hit. But no, I am over the moon about that win. It had me jumping up and down and fist pumping alone in my apartment, which I'm sure I'm the upstairs of the 2 floors in my complex. And so, hopefully I annoyed some neighbors down low with that. Before we get started, actually, quick plug for the socials, because we've got to. Pure Michigan Sports. We are Pure Michigan Sports, or the Pure Michigan Sports Show on Twitter, on Instagram, if you want to watch as well as listen to us on YouTube. Most importantly, I think, over on Substack, Pure Michigan Sports, because that's where you're going to get, not to knock the other socials, I love them, but that's where you're going to get the stuff that you don't see anywhere else, because A, it's free. Not a lot of Substacks right now are free, and hey, we might not be free for that very much longer, because B, you're going to get every random thought that comes into our head, even if it's just a little 100-word thing. Alex is still going to make it all formatted and look nice, and you'll get a bunch of thoughts that don't make it onto this show. So go follow us, drop the little comments and everything everywhere. But I do think we have to start with Saturday's Michigan football game. It was an afternoon game, and it was a massive win over what was once the 11th ranked team in the country. Of course, they are no longer. Michigan beats USC 27-24. I think we should start within where we're starting at the biggest headline from that game. Alex Orji, his first collegiate start, racks up a whopping 32 passing yards, but gets the all-important letter, that W. That was a struggle. There we go. Throw up the W. If you had to give this thing a letter grade, Professor Deimel, how do we feel about his performance? Obviously, we'll get into the game overall, but Orji specifically, how do we feel?
I mean, you don't get a very high grade just for doing the minimum work. I mean, when you're handing off the ball that many times, when the game is so focused on the run game, as it should be. I'm not saying like it should not. It should be a very run-focused team. We have 2 very good running backs. Orji's not like a premier quarterback.
One very good running back.
Mullings is up there.
Mullings is the very good quarterback. You have 1.5 good running backs. You've got Mullings, and I don't know, man.
You're not on the D. Edwards train? I thought that was the obvious one.
He has a No, dude, I love Donovan Edwards, but he is the number 2 back in this system. I think that's clear at this point. He had that I mean, he's a big play back or a big game back at this point. He had that massive 41-yard run, but you take that away, and I get it. It's a 41-yard touchdown run in a top 18 matchup. That's big time. You can't just take it away, but you take that one breakaway run off the board. He had 13 rushes for what is 33 yards. I mean, come on. I
think
love him, but there's a reason Kalel Mullings is the cowbell back right now.
That's fair. I mean, I feel like with what Edwards has done in the past, though, like since he's gotten here, like okay, that's like saying like right now,
2 years ago.
Well, that's still like saying like, oh, we're just gonna write Jared Goff completely off because he's had like 3 bad games.
That is so different. How is Donovan Edwards had a mediocre at best last year. Last season, at best, he was mediocre. I would go with bad.
Behind the best running back in college football.
The touches he got were terrible, man. I love Donovan Edwards. I loved what he's given to this program. The touchdowns, the massive game 2 years ago against OSU will forever live in my memory. The breakoff touchdowns against Washington. He had, like I said, a big game back. He had another big, long touchdown run against USC. But come on, he is the clear number 2 back, and I don't know if there's a possible situation where he's anywhere close to a number 1. He's okay. The last 2 years, he's been an okay back.
Let's go back here, though. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I am saying we do have 2 very good running backs.
Yes. All right. That's fair. Sorry. That was a tangent.
I think you have 2 running backs that are going to be the primary focus of your offensive system. I think that's fair to say.
Word.
And for me, you don't get a ton of credit just for handing the ball to them. It's that simple. I said from the beginning, I don't think Miller Moss is that guy, and he didn't have that bad of a game. At the end of the day, Michigan still pulled it on top. And again, when you throw for 32 yards, you get a win. That's fine, but I'm not going to go out and give you an A+ because you hand the ball off. That's just not how that's going to work.
So what's the grade then?
Give him a C.
Honestly,
I'm going to give him a B. I'm going to give him a B-.
Really?
You beat a ranked team. You did beat a ranked team. You do have to factor that in. It was not exactly an easy win. It was a bit more of a gritty win. Your defense wasn't as you weren't able to be as reliant on your defense as they've been in the past. So I'll give him a B-. He did his job and he did it well, but not like he wasn't extravagant. It was not a oh my god, like Alex Orji. And again, it's not going to be. The expectations are like a B. It's not going to be insane. It's going to be a very rough year when it comes to quarterback play.
I think that phrase you used right at the end there hit the nail on the head. He does what you need him to do, right? I mean, he doesn't do, and that was the biggest fear, and I think we actually talked about it on last week's show, was Davis Warren hasn't been great in a lot of aspects. There's a reason he gets benched. We're not going to spend time crapping on him in this episode. But I feel like the biggest hurts that Warren gave you were the turnovers. We're giving your very good defense short fields, giving your very good defense short breaks, putting them in bad situations a couple of times late in halves. I think that earns him some points in my book, was he did not turn the ball over. He, big air quotes here, did what he needed to do. On the other hand, he's physically incapable of throwing a forward pass, and that hurts, right? That, like, I give him a C-. I think I'll give him a C flat, actually, or the straight C. I think he had, stick with me here because this makes sense in my head, but I don't know if I can get it off here. He had a D+ performance, I think, because it came in a win over a number 11 team.
So you're giving him some extra credit for a win.
Yeah.
It's like it was a bonus question. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes sense.
Because it's a win smooths over a lot, and we'll talk about this with the Lions. But I think their offense in particular played probably worse than they did, at the very least, the same level that they did against the Buccaneers. But you win one game, you lose another, so you feel a lot better coming out of this week than you did last week, right? I mean, I'm not saying, and that's a different conversation. We'll save it for the Lions. But when winning games, and this is me being Captain Obvious here, smooths over a lot of the rough spots, right? Because if you lose this game, and if you don't manufacture what was an incredible last drive in the final minutes where you're handing the ball off like it's 1940 in a need a touchdown, clock is dependent situation, you're handing the ball off every time. That's ridiculous to me. That's crazy. That might be the first time I've ever seen it. You were desperately running against the clock, and you're not clocking the ball. You're not working the sidelines. You're turning and handing to Kalel Mullings. That's wild. That's almost unheard of. But if you don't have that drive at the end of the game, we look at this game differently. Obviously, we look back and we say Alex Orji isn't the answer. He threw for 32 yards. He couldn't make plays on third down. Michigan, I think on both sides of the ball, that's probably the biggest thing they need to clean up is third down performances. I thought the defense, as solid as they were for most of the game, especially passing wise, got USC to long third downs, gave up big Trojan plays from there. I think Orji deserves a C overall. And a win does a lot for me in this book because it leads us into my biggest other question from this game. And you could be going a different direction here, and feel free to. How viable do you feel like this offense is going forward? Because we just raved on Kalel Mullings. We just talked for a long time about the grade Orji gets. But can you do this against everyone?
I think it's a pretty obvious answer, and that answer is no. You cannot win. You cannot expect to win multiple games with under 100 passing yards unless you're running like the fucking triple option. I think that's a very clear-cut statement. There shouldn't be like anyone that has a debate for that. Please let me know. But if anyone thinks this team can be that viable or that good with an offense where you simply do not have a quarterback that can throw the ball and you're not running any type of spread offense, I don't know. It's a win is a win. I said from the beginning Miller Moss was never going to be that guy.
And I'll take the loss there. I really thought he was, and he was going up against a good defense, right? But
he fell right into Will Johnson's hands.
Yeah.
He fell right into Will Johnson's hands. He took his talk about taking your ball and going home. But no, it's great to have a win. It's good to at least know that there's some competence, but I'm in no way, shape, or form that enthusiastic about this team going forward.
This doesn't give you any new life?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
But who would I be if I wasn't pessimistic?
Yeah, that's
who would I be?
Fair. That's fair. My biggest thing is, or my biggest worry is 3 weeks from now, you go to Illinois against what is one of the top defenses in the Big Ten right now, particularly forcing turnovers. We talked earlier about how important those are, or those not having them is to this offense. I think that's a game you circle on your calendar because Oregon's probably a loss, right? I hope not, but you can mark in Oregon as probably a loss. You can mark in OSU as probably a loss. Hopefully you can get a win in Indiana and the other games you feel all right about. But if those are your only 3 losses and you've got a couple ranked wins on your schedule, maybe you try and squeak into the playoff. Who knows? That's something for down the line. But if that's how you're feeling, what do you have to do? You have to circle the Illinois game, and you have to get a win in Illinois versus the Illini. So that looking forward, I think that's really the test of this offense, because when you go to Washington, I think you can run them over. When you play Minnesota at home, I think you can run them over. When Illinois stops the run, like I think they may be able to, can Alex Orji, like what you said last week, I think that was maybe the best point of last week's show, period. You're just depending on Alex Orji to make plays for you on third down. So what you said last week, I think it's absolutely true. I think that's my biggest question was if in the next few weeks or against Illinois, Alex has 40 passing yards again, but they all come on third down and 4, which we couldn't stay on the field on. I'll take it,
Yeah. And we shall see. It'll be interesting to see. I am a little bit more confident about playing Minnesota. I just think this is a terrible Minnesota team they're about to face. on an under 35 point for a Michigan team. When was the last time we saw that as the total line? Like, that is unbelievable.
That's
If we
actually
want to talk
wild. That
about
is.
low scoring, I mean, like you said earlier about the Lions, a win is a win, but fuck. I mean, talk
Wasn't
about a
pretty.
bailout at the end there. What is it? Going in, about to hit the 2-minute warning. Goff throws a pick six, and it just gets called back because they didn't get the snap off. I would have been livid. I don't think you can really like categorize the anger if you're a Cardinals fan.
Because it also turned into an electric touchdown, but a touchdown, what, 3 plays later?
Yeah.
That hurts. That hurts big time in a game that was this close, in a game where the Cardinals had so many opportunities and couldn't do anything offensively, especially in the second half. The Lions fans are complaining about how bad the offense was in the second half for us. Imagine what Cardinals fans are talking about with their man.
Especially when you go
Ooh.
and just completely dominate a division rival like they did the week before. They killed the Rams. It wasn't even close. To then go and have that, it's definitely, it's frustrating. I mean, the Lions have been through stuff like that too. What I'm not used to, and what I don't think I will ever be able to get used to, is I wouldn't even call it the lack of clutchness. It's just purely the lack of scoring in the fourth quarter. Like, this was the team that you never liked it, but the team that could always come from behind and win. And I talked about last week how you cannot rely on that. I'm starting to realize, yes, you can't rely on that, but it doesn't mean it can't happen like every once in a while. Like, give me some cushions. And it's like, I'd rather have that, obviously, than a team that, can, or God, I lost my train of thought. I would rather have a team that just always, like, gives you a heart attack but then pulls out the win than a team that just can't score at all when they need to.
Can't do. I mean, the second half's now for 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, Buccaneers 2 weeks ago, and then this one that was a win in Arizona. It's been ugly, and it's been almost night and day.
You can't have that again. You can't have that on Monday.
No, you can't. And honestly, we're gonna let's talk about it right now. This schedule upcoming for the team in Honolulu Blue is not pretty. You have to bring your offense both sides of halftime.
Yep,
to
4
have
away games in 6 weeks.
4 away games against very good teams.
2 being division rivals.
Standing. Yeah, so the schedule for Lions fans who don't have it in front of you, you have Monday night coming up against the Seahawks. You're in Dallas. You're in Minnesota. You get a break in the middle. You're at home against Tennessee. Then you're in Green Bay, in Houston.
Does it even matter if Dallas is good or not, or are they still going to find a way to fuck us like they did last year?
If we can't even get that close to the end zone, it won't matter.
Like, I don't know. I saw Dan Skipper get hurt, and I was like, then I immediately thought of Taylor Decker, and then I was like, I just was angry all over. That I feel like I'm just going to be like impossible to be around during that game. Dallas, Detroit. Like, I don't think anyone's going to want to be around me.
Here is one thing that might make friends of Alex Deimel very happy. That they won't have to avoid him that Sunday. Dallas has right now the worst run defense in the National Football League. Anyone playing football,
it doesn't matter if we can't fucking score.
If we have the 4th best running offense, man. It gives me a little bit of hope. Yes, we can't score the ball right now, but
we can have the number one offense in terms of anything. If we don't have like half decent, if we can't score the touchdowns, it doesn't matter.
And the play calling feels a little odd to me too.
I mean, I'm not complaining after what that sick last touchdown.
He had a cool hook and ladder, bro. But that doesn't mean like, he called a good second half.
No, but I was willing to any question.
You can look it over.
Any questions I had, or any time I was questioning Ben Johnson's judgment that entire day, all went out the window. I was like, all right, in the bag, good game, done.
It's got some stats for Lions fans here. You're complaining about it. We're complaining about it. The offense in the second half has been a struggle. I would say they haven't even gotten on the struggle bus. It's that bad. 25th in second half scoring. 25th in the league with an offense that should be high-powered. Ben Johnson, future head coach, whatever the hell.
Actually, hold on. Wait a minute. I can't even believe that I forgot to mention this, and it's not even in our outline. And I am going to go on a rant for a bit here for a second.
Can I give you one more stat before we do?
Go for it.
Hopefully, this will fuel the rant here. 30th in fourth quarter scoring.
See, now what
we
I'm
scored
about to,
3 total points in the fourth quarter in 3 games. Come on.
That does make me mad, but this makes me even more mad, and it actually has nothing to do with statistics, and it actually really has nothing to do with the Lion. Well, it has to do with the Lions, but not in the way you would think. There was a report that came out 2 weeks ago.
Oh, Dan Campbell.
That Dan Campbell's address was leaked. I am about the angriest fan you've ever seen in your fucking life. Can we just be reminded that these are human beings that have lives outside of their job? When you fuck up at work, or you fuck up in school, or you do something wrong, is it okay for your professor or your boss to go and say, you know what, you messed up, so I'm going to basically send people after you and completely expose a part of your private life? Since how in the world would anyone think that's okay? I know we live in a crazy world, but can we? This is entertainment. This is the entertainment business. Not everything is perfect. And no, your team isn't always going to win. Coaches are going to make mistakes. Players are going to make mistakes. Are we really going to crucify and ruin their life for it? I can't stand even thinking about the Brady Hoke or the Rich Rodriguez eras. Never would it ever occur to me to do anything close to this.
There was a social media post, I think it was along with the release of Receiver, the Netflix little documentary thing, whatever you want to call it. Devontae Adams talked in that post about his day in a life or week in a life. And, hey, we do this in preparation for games, and then we get Mondays off, and then Tuesdays we do this. In the top comment on that post was, they get Mondays off? Like people had no idea. They have lives. They are real people. These are human beings that you can't just show up to their house or threaten them or do anything. Blake O'Neal, trouble with the snap. Do you know how many death threats he got after that? It's fucking ridiculous. These are human beings. In a lot of cases, all of the college players and a lot of the younger NFL guys, they're kids. They are children. They're 21, 22, 23 years old. Chill the fuck out.
It's not even just that. Like, do you think your anger or upset over your team losing is more upsetting to you than the team itself or the coaches themselves?
You think?
Like, do you really think you're more angry than Dan Campbell after a loss? That's his job. That's his livelihood. He's paid to win, and he didn't win. Like, I don't know. I obviously, like, people, the paparazzi, all of that, they take it way too far with celebrities, and that's unfortunately something that I think when you're in that stature, there is a level of, hey, when you get to this, point in your life, or you get to that level of fame, there are unfortunately consequences that come with it, and it sucks, but there are some things where you can just say it is the way it is. Leaking someone's address is not a part of that at all, especially when it's basically leaking it to go say, hey, let's go harass this person.
Leaking with intent.
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize. I know it has nothing to do with the sport, but like I think it came out like right after we recorded last week, and I was just fuming because it's like, with a loss is bad enough, but Dan Campbell's the best thing that's happened to Detroit sports or the Detroit Lions at the very least. One of the best things that's happened to Detroit sports in a very, very long time. And you're going to take one loss and say, fuck this guy. And we need him, damn it.
And so what? If he goes 0-17 the next 17
Did anyone do this to Jim? Did anyone do this to Jim Schwartz? That's my question.
That's my thing, is you mentioned him being like the savior of this franchise. Let's say he wasn't. Let's say he goes 0-17.
It doesn't matter.
That doesn't give you the warrant to go harass this man. No,
it makes it ridiculous. Even more like insane to be like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. The rumor is that he has had to move or is planning on moving. Hopefully that's not the case. That part I know is still rumor and not substantiated. regardless, keep the game as the game. Let that
keep
be separate from their
entertainment.
personal
Let
lives.
people do their jobs on their own time and have private lives. Is really the end of the day. Now, unless you had something else on the Lions,
no, good spot to end it.
I want to transition here and say that this may be a mistake, but pessimistic Tigers fan Alex has disappeared.
You're kidding.
No. And like I said, it may be for I may be screwing them right now. But I am completely bought in. This team is going to the playoffs. After that, I don't know if you were able to watch it today. I got lucky where it started right after class for me, and I was able to go turn it on.
Big time win.
That is the best pitcher in baseball. This is the most energetic, and yes, I'm saying energetic, this team has been since I was 12 years old. 12 years old. They're fighting through at bats. Wensil Perez went to, I don't know, I think he had I think his first 3 at bats both went to full counts, and he just sat there and battled and battled, and either got a walk or he hit the 2 runs we scored in on a double. Like, it is that it's grit. That's exactly what it is. It's grit. And Tarek Skubal, hyping up a crowd that there was practically no one there because yes, it was a 1-time game on a Tuesday. Like, you're not going to get a lot of fans, but even then, like, hyping them up, getting fired up. This is exactly what Tigers fans have been waiting for so long. And I want to go back because obviously, as our 2 listeners who actually pay attention to my thoughts on the Tigers know, I have been so pessimistic about this run, and I still do. Like, if they find a chance to blow this, I'm going to be 10 times more angry than I would be happy if we go. I'm sticking with that. But the energy and the hope and the chance is there, and I think this is the most confident this team has looked in a very long time, where they're fighting through at bats. They're willing to go that extra mile. I even am okay with them chasing pitches right now because they want to get on base. They want to hit the ball. I'm not okay with Spencer Torkelson chasing the dirt. That will never be okay. There is a level to it. But Tarek Skubal regularly 7 innings, 7 Ks. That's been the regular this year. That's insane.
Future Cy Young, man. Future Triple Crown.
Yeah, it's cue ridiculous. Up the clip from April.
Yeah, that needs to be said. This man has been pessimistic. He needs a little bit of ribbing for how long.
Okay, no, I did say Tarek was going to win the Cy Young.
That's what I was going to. No. Yeah. I was getting there. He predicted a Cy Young out of this man. I think you're right. I think before the season even started, saying this kid stays healthy, he is that level of pitcher. He can do this right now. And he did, and he has, and it's been excellent. It's been awesome to watch. He's a big reason for this run. Obviously, I think the bullpen getting a lot more consistent than what they were. Great as well. Any keys? You mentioned the grit, and I know that's sort of something that you can't really quantify, but where do we feel this run has come from? The on and offness of the bats, feels like the obvious answer here.
When you have guys like Kerry Carpenter that go on tears, when you have the Parker Meadows tears, the guys who have been absolutely just lit on fire the past couple weeks, it goes to show that it is a team sport, but it does take 1 or 2 guys that can really light a spark. This was a team that could get guys on base. They just couldn't do anything about it. And this is now a team that let's just take a look here. Sunday, 4-3 win over the Orioles. Not a ton of runs, but you get the job done. 6-4 over the Orioles. We're not going to talk about a 1-7 loss on Friday. But when you're consistently at least putting up, anywhere from 4 to 6 runs, that's way better than you were before. When you're getting shut out by the Miami Marlins in May and you come back and now you're, competing with teams like the Orioles who have been playoff teams from the jump, it does show growth. And it does show that at least, especially considering how many people they've called up, including Jackson Jobe, as we'll get to here in a second, that there is starting to become a method to the madness. And I don't even know if it's method to the madness necessarily, but there is something to be said about this farm system as of now. There is always the speculation, and of course I'm thinking about it because I'm a pessimistic asshole. Did we call up Trey Sweeney too early? Did we call up Jace Young too early? Did we pull are we pulling a Torkelson by bringing up all these guys right now? I'm going to choose to say no right now, but look at the sample size we've been given. It's great. It's what we need right now. But these are young guys. This is a very young team, and this is going to be the future of this team. They have a lot more under their belt that they're going to go through, and I think it's very early to judge. It's great to win right now. Make the playoffs, go for it. What can't happen is we make the playoffs and everybody's like, all right, this team is it. It's going to take a while for them to prove that this is the team.
That's a good point.
With that in mind, yes, I am finally bought in. I'm done being pessimistic. This team is going to the playoffs.
You got a good point, Alex, that God willing, we make the playoffs in a couple of weeks here, in a week here. It does change, and it probably will change the whole offseason, certainly on Twitter, the expectations for this team in the coming years. I think we'll focus on right now, though. Today's win, massive. We're filming this or recording this on Tuesday. It'll probably be yesterday's win while you're watching or listening. But that first win over Tampa, massive. You had to have it. 2 left against Tampa. You're in the wild card 2 right now in the AL. You got 5 games left, 2 against Tampa, 3 against the worst team in baseball, maybe the worst team ever. You got to feel good, and you got to feel like it's right there on the tip of your tongue. And a guy that's been right there for a minute, finally here, Jackson Jobe, into the lineup as bullpen player, and technically not eligible for the postseason to be on the postseason roster, but chances he ends up finding a way on anyways, probably pretty high. But Shelby Miller gone, Jackson Jobe in. How do we feel?
It's very easy. It's very easy to say excited, right? Like, yeah, the best pitching prospect in baseball. Exactly. It's a sign that this team is fully going through that, going for that push. That's what they want. And it's also very easy to say, thank God Shelby Miller's gone, because it was great in the beginning, just kind of took a deep dive off a cliff. My mind, anytime we've called someone up, immediately goes to Spencer Torkelson. And pitching is obviously different.
Yeah.
Pitching is always going to be different. But that's where my mind always goes, is this team's history of calling guys up so early and then it panning out not very well. This is also, you're going to call him up, and yes, he's going to make the postseason roster. His first major league action, if he doesn't pitch in these next upcoming games and he does make the postseason roster, his first major league action, or real major league action, being playoff baseball, is terrifying.
It's a risk.
It's a huge risk. And I do like, it takes guts. It's, it's Scott Harris saying, all right, let's go. Like, this is our time. Let's make that push. But it is a very high risk, high reward thing. So I'm excited. He's, like I said, he's the best pitching prospect in baseball. We've been waiting on it. I did not expect it to happen this soon. Very much not on the bingo card, but as excited as I am, there's unfortunately always going to be the nervousness, and it's gonna be that way until there's a consistent pattern of Tigers prospects panning out above that certain bar, and that bar
until
being
they give you reason to trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I end up saying this like 3 times an episode, but Alex, I think you hit the nail right on the head. All high risk, high reward. All the chips into the middle. It's that kind of move. To be honest with you, as someone that's newer to baseball, the last really 3 or 4 years is when I've started following baseball closely like this, is when, and so I don't have as much of the history and understand that there's reason to fear. It feels like a move that should give Tigers fans confidence in the front office's confidence, if that makes sense. There's a certain amount of ballsiness, certain amount of cojones that it takes to make a move like that, whether or not it pans out. I think confidence in where the team is at right now shows you something.
Yeah, and it's the first time we've had a GM that has made a move. A GM that is. It's the first time we've been in a spot like this in how long? in ages. Like this is the first
Very
time
true.
they've been this competitive at the end of the season and are at least fighting for the playoffs. And you mentioned just starting to closely follow baseball. Your favorite statistic, run differential. They are up to a plus 38 run differential, and I do remember the days where they were in the reds. They were in the red, man.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we got to hit before we get to our picks of the week on the Wings. We mentioned last week one signing, and I know it was Alex that just said there's a couple more we got to lock up before he feels confident about this offseason. Consider them locked up. Mr. Deimel, come on.
This, I think, has been what we've been waiting is like, and again, it's not Stevie Y's first offseason where he's making major moves. He made some last year. He went out and got DeBrincat. But now he's locked up what he deems to be the future of the Detroit Red Wings, the future of Hockey Town. And I am so fucking excited. Now, I've said it so many times on this podcast. You cannot, it's very easy to, get excited. This is a team that has shown they can do it. They got close. They were a game apart. But you can't go on these 7-game pointless streaks. That can't happen. You can't have a defense that has to collapse. You do have to have depth. That is my one concern going into this is defensive depth. Lock up Mo Seider, great. Keep him. He's proved himself to be a commodity. What came of the Jake Wallman trade?
You're still on that?
What came of it? Nothing.
Good point.
That's my one concern is where's the defensive depth? Is it going to come from the minors? Great. Is it Simon Edvinson's also? Is it his time to shine? Go for it.
But let's see it.
Let's see it. Offensively, I have no qualms. Like this is it was funny though because 5-6 years ago, if Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane were on the same team, the hockey world would be just like up in arms because these were two of the best offensive players in hockey at one point, and now they're third liners. I think second and third liners for the Detroit Red Wings. As cool as that is, there's a reason they're second and third liners now. I think we'll get production, and it's great to have Patty Kane back. It's great to have Vladimir Tarasenko. True. Guys that are proven scorers. But there's a reason they're not first line guys anymore. But they're all that being said, there's offensive depth. We've got some goaltending. We'll see how Cam Talbot is. My big concern is the defensive depth. Like Mo Seider gets hurt, what are we going to do?
It's a good point, and thankfully we are far enough from the season that we get to pump the brakes. We'll wait and see.
Yep.
And I think it's time now for picks of the week. And I did not do so hot last week. Obviously,
you didn't do so hot. Did I gave App State last week? Right, that was my pick.
Yeah, you did.
48-14, they lost. Probably the worst loss of my life. Not money wise, like not monetarily, but just like
confidence in a pick.
Confidence in a pick, and then being so utterly wrong. Like I almost just quit gambling right there, which I probably should. Like as we all should, because it'd be smart. Are we ever going to? No. But no. This week.
Let's hear
it. It makes sense. It makes sense that this line is that way. But 36 total points in a Michigan football game just doesn't seem right to me. And I'm going against everything that either of these teams have shown me. And I'm going to take the over. Over 36, Michigan, Minnesota. I do think we wiped the floor with this team.
Yeah.
I've watched Minnesota play a few games. PJ Fleck is not the guy. He is not the answer. This is not a talented Michigan, not a talented Minnesota team. Wow.
I was going to say.
There is talent on this Michigan team.
Not under center, but, Sorry. Keep going.
I'm going to go with that over 36. And then outside of that,
you want to go back and forth? We'll hit our Michigan picks.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I got a Michigan pick as well, and I think this is the trend we're going to continue on as a pick and then a Michigan sports-related pick. My Michigan sports-related pick lies in Ann Arbor as well. I've got -9 To be honest with you, I'm not sure, just because we all know what this offense is and isn't capable of. Of that total number being at 36, it is wild to me, but I'm not really willing to bet either way on it. I like -9 for Michigan. I think at home, rolling off of a big win. I know there's, especially with a quarterback in his second start, a little bit of risk there because maybe you have an emotional high and now an emotional drop. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think they run over the Ghosts. -9. Do you have a non-Michigan pick?
It seems too good to be true. Texas -38.5 against Mississippi State. This is one of the worst SEC teams I think we've ever seen in Mississippi State. And that line just seems a little too far for the number one team in the country. That's going to be the non-Michigan pick. What do you got?
I've got, when we were talking about this, usually we don't tell each other our picks until right now. I think I gave it away pre-show, but I've got Devin Singletary, Giants running back, picking up, and I mentioned it in the show. The Cowboys have an absolutely terrible, in fact, the worst run defense in the National Football League. And I know that the Giants suck, but I don't think that magically changes the fact that Dallas
Malik
can't stop
Neighbors.
the run. Malik Neighbors a dog. Malik Neighbors the dog. That doesn't magically fix the Giants offense.
No, that's true.
The Giants offense sucks. That doesn't magically fix the Cowboys run defense. So I think Devin Singletary -110.
Seems like a good equation.
Anytime. I know, right? We're doing some math here. I haven't taken math class since high school. Devin Singletary -110. Anytime tutty. His rush line is actually also sitting just above 60. I think I'm going to take that. I don't think that's my official pick of the week. Regardless, I feel like they can just continue to run over Dallas. And that's actually a Thursday night game. So if you want to get those picks in, if anyone's stupid enough to tail these, make sure to do that earlier rather than later. But unless you got anything else, that is episode 19 of Pure Michigan Sports. We're rolling now. Fall season is peaking. We're loving it. Drop the follow, drop the subscribe, whatever the hell the button is on that platform that you're on. Make sure to hit it. Pure Michigan Sports everywhere. Until episode 20, we're out of here.